Hi there, my name's Kirsten. This is the Paper Knits Podcast, episode number 20. I'm a knitter in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and here I talk about all of the things that I've knit. Today we even have a little bit of crochet, and it has been months since I have podcasted, and so I have so much to share with you. I actually filmed a podcast almost 2 weeks ago now. Went to start editing it, realized I had filmed it in slow motion, and there was no sound. So that was disappointing. It's taken me 2 weeks now to, come back to this. And in the meantime, I've finished a project and cast on some other things. And so I have even more to show you than I did 2 weeks ago. Bit of a life update first, just because I feel like I need to talk about that before I can talk about my knitting. It's been a hard few months, which is why I have not been here. I had also been in the knitting rut during a lot of that time. Although I did end up knitting quite a bit. I just didn't feel that excited or motivated about knitting. And so right before, I guess, my last podcast, I found out that I was pregnant. And I've since lost that pregnancy. If you've been here before, you know that it's been a journey. So this being pregnant in and of itself was hard. We were really excited. We were feeling really hopeful. Baby would have arrived this June. I was immediately quite sick. I had bad morning sickness. My body was hurting quite a lot right from the get-go. And we were also navigating getting through December, our daughter's second year birthday, anniversary of her death. And that was a lot. And then early in January, we found out that this pregnancy was going to end. There was about a month of a lot of uncertainty and tests and all these things. And we said goodbye to this baby at 17 weeks in February, start of February. And so it was really, really horrendous. Opened up a lot of, it felt like, there had been this wound that's scabbing over of grieving Beth, and then this ripped off and reopened that wound, and then added a few more slashes in there. It's oh, that sounds gory and graphic, but also that's feels like what it was. It was just a lot. January was a really horrible month. And I just barely got out of bed, which is how I was coping, and it was fine. But that also, I had been feeling not motivated about knitting while I was pregnant, because I felt I'd like to knit sweaters. I don't want to knit a sweater. It's not even going to fit me in a few months. And I kind of want to start knitting for the baby, but also I feel I don't want to jinx it. And when I had my dating ultrasound at the start of December, then I felt I could give myself permission to hope that much more, I guess, a little bit. It meant that I planned a baby blanket project and bought yarn and started knitting that. That's on the back burner now. Partway through January then, as I was just in the midst of this really weird limbo phase and all these things, I was okay, knitting helped me so much in the last 2 years, grieving the loss of Beth. I know that it will help me now. I kind of had to force myself to do it a little bit, which then immediately I'm oh, why am I forcing myself to do something? It's well, because I'm not doing anything. I couldn't do anything. And yes, slowly I kind of made myself knit, and that helped me get some momentum, I think, and helped actually quite a bit. In theory, I want to finish that baby blanket just as kind of a remembrance thing for this baby that we lost. I'm gonna let that play out as it kind of does. I'm gonna let it do its thing and decide if I want to keep revisiting that. I got about like this much knit. So anyways, that has been like the life update from the last few months. It's been really tough. There's a lot of just like world things happening that are really heavy, and I feel like I've said this every time I film, that I'm like, it feels, you know, kind of trite or something to be like talking about knitting in the midst of like all of these horrible things. And also like we all know that like creative expression is helpful for coping with life. Community is helpful for coping with life. Me getting to just like blab about something that I love for an hour helps me cope with life. I hope that you getting to sit and knit while I blab about my knitting helps you cope with life. So I've got a lot of things to share and I'm excited about it. I don't want that to seem like everything's hunky-dory, because it's not. But I love talking about my knitting, and so that's what I'm gonna do. And like I said, I have so many things to share. I had debated whether or not I wanted to just kind of like forget about all the things that I've knit in the last 3 months and just like kind of start fresh with like, here's what's on my needles right now. Here's my most recent FO. But I kind of like the sake of like completeness to be able to talk about everything. So most of it is like accessory items and things. I've started adding timestamps into the description, and so you can like see kind of like chapter marks of like what project I'm talking about when. So if you want to like skip ahead to the new things or something, or ignore the old FOs and just see the new whips or whatever, like you can do that kind of more easily. And I link everything in the description box as well. Links to my Ravelry project pages, links to the yarn, anything else that I mentioned, I try and put links because I love links and I love knowing where things are and I love looking things up. So I like to add all of that in as well to my videos. Might as well just say right now too, you can find me on Instagram if you want. I'm at paper.knits, and Ravelry, this is paper knits. And so you can find me there, and you can come see some in real time updates instead of 3 months later updates. So, okay, let me start talking about what I'm wearing. And so this is my Emery Vest by Joji Locatelli, and I had it almost done, I believe, the last time I filmed. And so now it's an FO, I can show it off. This is either like a vest or a pullover pattern. I knit the vest with some very random unspun yarn that I bought at a yarn store here in Alberta that was very mysterious. Didn't know what it was, didn't know where it came from. The shop also was unsure. They said it was potentially from a kit that they had done that was then they no longer had the yarn for. And I bought 2 little cakes of it. It was like, I can't remember now, $6, $8 or something for these 2 little cakes. Didn't know how much yarn was there, whatever. I cast this project on very spontaneously, didn't swatch, and just like, well, I guess we'll see if I have enough yarn. I just barely had enough yarn, and also even ran out a little bit. But I'm really happy with how this vest turned out. And so I'm wearing it today with my favorite linen skirt from Nettle's Tale. And this is like, it's quite cropped, but it's perfect for a dress. It like hits right at my waist. And it's just like a cozy, warm, cabled layer of loveliness. And I have not been wearing it enough. When I first finished it, I like wore it every day. Even just like around over my like pajama top while I was like around the house, because it was cozy and warm. And then I put it away and kind of forgot about it. Also realizing that I have still not blocked it. So I should do that. I'm sure the fabric will kind of all meld together nicely if I block it. This was a very engaging knit. It has a lot of cables, a lot of cable charts, lots of things going on at the same time. The neckline shaping, arm shaping, yeah, all the different cable charts. I definitely put all of them into Knit Companion and made it so that I had like, okay, here's the 4-row repeat cable and the 8-row repeat cable, and I like, you know, fill it all in so I can just knit and not have to think about where I'm at in each different chart. And that totally helped a lot. I made a couple of minor modifications. I made the neckline a little bit lower, so I just like knit a few more rows before I joined, and I kind of been like fiddling with doing that with patterns lately because I find if something's too close to my neck, then I feel kind of claustrophobic. And was kind of just guessing to see if that would work for this, and it did. It was fine. And I did not pick up ribbing on the armholes because I wasn't going to have enough yarn, like for sure not going to have enough yarn. And so I had, before I finished the body, I did the neckband and then decided then that I was not going to be able to do the armband, finished knitting the body. What I ended up doing was just folding over the edge and tacking it down, like folding over like the selvage edge and tacking it down. And I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. Like I feel like if I had added the ribbing, then this would have been sitting too wide. Like it's right at the top of my shoulder how it is. And so I actually kind of really like that. And then on the bottom, I have like 4 rows of ribbing and the last 2 are a different yarn because I ran out. And so I wanted to have like a full repeat of this cable and then start the ribbing. And it was definitely feeling like, is this gonna be too cropped? I do think it's perfect. It's like right at my natural waist, but I just like found a random yarn in my collection that was not unspun. And so I could do a tubular, well, not tubular. I did an Italian sewn bind off on the bottom edge. And if you look at it, like you can tell that it's a different color. I don't think that you can tell that it's a different color though. Just like one row. If I came up closer to the camera, you could tell, but I think that it all worked out pretty well. I had 0 yarn left over. And I got a very functional item out of it. And so I'm pretty pleased with all of that. It's a fun knit. I'm actually like, would consider knitting it again, maybe knit the pullover, knit another vest, maybe something a bit longer. I feel like vests are like in right now and there's like a lot of cool patterns for them. And yeah, I'm quite happy with that, how this one all turned out. And I need to wear it now a few more times before spring comes. When I filmed 2 weeks ago and messed it up, it felt like spring here in Edmonton. It was like +10, all the snow was melting, it was beautiful. It's kind of this joke that's like when it's 10 degrees in March, then like everyone's in shorts and t-shirts and like, you know, loving life. If it's 10 degrees in September, then like we're all wearing our sweaters. But the like thaw in the spring is just so nice. But we also know that it was not real spring, it was fake spring. And so we are now back into winter again. We had a snowfall warning the last couple days and it was like -21 with the wind chill this morning. So I have a few more weeks to be able to wear my like cozy woolen vest. So yes, Emery Vest by Joji Locatelli. I think it's really cute. Okay, next up requires an outfit change, so I'm gonna do that. Did I also definitely make sure that my last section recorded properly and has sound and is the proper speed? Yes, we are good. Okay, here is my other FO. This is called the Newspaper Pullover. It is also by Joji Locatelli. This is an older pattern. I don't know when it came out. Let me look. 2021. Yeah, it's been on my knit list for like quite a while. And I just love the like black and white of Joji's sample. I knew that's what I wanted to do mine in too. And I bought yarn for this at Knit City, Calgary in August. And I cast it on around Christmas time this year. And yeah, it is all over brioche, fingering weight. Was a slow knit, slow progress. Doing the 2-color brioche. It's just like takes a bit of time doing every single row twice, but I also am really happy with how it turned out. I think just like the contrast of the black and white is so nice. It's just like, yeah, I like the raglan detail here and just like how the arm kind of alternates with the body. Yeah, I really like it. I was impressed with how this turned out. I did a very lazy swatch for this. Didn't get gauge. Would have had to go down another needle size, but decided like, I bet that this is just what my brioche gauge is going to be. It doesn't matter how small of a needle I do. And so I just made a size smaller than I normally would have. I don't know what the finished measurement was supposed to be. It doesn't really matter. Also, brioche is so stretchy. I was not worried about it being too small. I was a little bit worried about it being too big. But I think it's okay. It's like a comfy sweatshirt vibe, but I think it like looks a little bit more elevated. Just my humble opinion. I somehow made the yoke a little bit too deep. Each like chunk of stripes is like a certain number of rows depending on the size you were. And I accidentally, I don't know how, I was like following all the increases and stuff for the raglans, and this one ended up being too big by like, I don't know, it was maybe only like 4 rows maybe. And so then I just kept doing that same, so like all the stripes would be the same width, but it means that the yoke depth is a little bit lower. But I think it's okay because it's like it's oversized enough that it's like it doesn't pull up too much when I move around, and I think it's fine. So I knit this in Frankie Gray fibers. Their fingering weight base, which is this like superwash merino nylon. The white color is their Folklore and their Reputation. So this one's Folklore, this one's Reputation. Reputation has a few more speckles in it. That's part of their Taylor Swift collection. And then the gray color is 2 different colors that look almost the exact same, but they were a little bit different. I can't tell which one's which though, so I think it's all fine, but it's charcoal and iron. So I had initially bought 1 skein of each last year and made this cowl, which had a few iterations before it turned into this one. So this was Folklore and charcoal, and I had like more than half a skein of each left over. And so when I was at Knit City, I decided to buy Reputation, and then they didn't have any of the charcoal, but they had the iron. So I said, okay, it'll be fine. And so I have like each section is like a different color, but you can't really tell. So I think it worked out pretty good. I do have quite a bit of yarn left over, however, like a full skein of this, half skein of each of these. So it was like I used up yarn from a different project, but then I had to add more yarn to it, and now I still have leftovers. So I'm not sure what these will turn into. they've been sitting on my like shelf next to me where I knit. So I look at them and I think like, hey, what could I do with that? Like, could I turn, you know, 2 half balls of fingering weight yarn into? But then I thought, oh, maybe I'll make socks, because I have Eras Tour socks. I brought them down. This was another FO. I think I had started to show these last time. This is their Eras Tour colorway that I bought in the DK weight. Maybe also at Knit City. And so maybe I also make some Reputation socks. And then I was thinking maybe I make colorwork socks, which I've never done before. That might be interesting. So we'll see what that turns into. But I'm quite happy with the sweater. So, oh, one thing that random that happened is that I knit the sleeves on the wrong needle size, and I don't think it mattered. And so that's maybe also consistent with my theory that this is just what my brioche gauge is, regardless of which needle size I'm using. I think it turned out okay. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else I really wanted to share about it. I really like it. I think it's quite like visually interesting. I really like the black and white. I had a bit of a black and white theme this past month, apparently. So I will show you some of those things as well. In my last podcast, I had just finished my Luma sweater by Nordland, which is really nice, like black and white yoke, colorwork yoke. And I had leftovers. Well, I had run out of yarn, and then my friend Megan sent me her leftovers of the dark gray, and then I had leftovers from that because I didn't need very much, and she sent me like a ball and a half, and then I have a full ball still of the white color, and I decided to make a toque using the Luma colorwork chart. And so I made 2 because this was my first one that I made, and I was kind of winging it, and it ended up quite tall. I wanted to have this flower motif. It's quite a long repeat. I did this one, it was too big, whatever. It's a bit tall and it's a bit loose. And so I immediately cast on another one and changed the chart placement a little bit. It is still a little bit big, but it does the trick. I have a hard time wearing toques, partly because my hair, I grew out my hair for 2 years so that I could put it into scrunchies on the top of my head all the time, apparently. And you can't put a toque on. You have a big, giant, like, scrunchy hair. And so then I have to have my hair down. But my hair is large and in charge. And even, like, putting the toque over, my hair is so big and unruly that it like makes the toque like shimmy off of my hair or shimmy off of my head. I haven't quite figured out a solution to that yet. So when it is -30 outside, which was what December was, I was like very bundled. I bought this like really long puffer jacket that's like goes halfway like down my shins. It's the best. And just like a big shawl, toque, mitts. I want my toque to stay on my head, but it doesn't really matter what I look like if the toque looks weird, you know? Sometimes I've been even taking this one because it was that a little bit too long, and then it felt like it was staying on better. Anyways, I think I'm going to rip this one out just to save the yarn, and I will keep this one. I think I used, oh yeah, the Barley hat by Tin Can Knits was just what I used for the numbers. Just a free hat pattern. And then I had to do a little bit of figuring out just to make sure the charts, like the chart repeats fit. I had to rip out this one a couple of times, I think, because I wasn't paying attention to that like, you know, this chart repeat might not be the same as this, like the same multiples. Anyways, 2 toques, one that works, one that's a little bit not the best. One of my solutions to the not being able to wear a toque easily because of my hair is that I was like, I know, I'll knit a headband. I have this lovely knit headband that I bought in 2013, I believe, that somehow I still have. I actually almost lost it last week. It was like shoved into my sweater or something, and it fell out while I was wearing, like into my coat, and it like fell out onto the ground while I was wearing my coat. It was weird. Like, oh my God, I almost lost that. I've had it forever. Anyways, it's quite lovely and nice, but it's not super warm. Like, it's a bit airy. And so I was like, I know, I'll make myself a headband. That's like, I'm a knitter, I can do that. And so I had made these arched gusset mitts, which I think I showed last time, which is a Purl Soho pattern. And I made them in Ancient Arts Heritage base. These also I had lost. I like finished them in October, I think, and proceeded to lose them. I thought that they were just gone. I thought they'd fallen out of my vehicle. Like I couldn't find them. I found them a few weeks ago in my gym bag, which is weird because I don't go to the gym, but I had been taking swimming lessons in the fall. And so I don't know, I don't remember, but if I had worn them, if it was cold enough in October that I was wearing mittens and I had put them into my gym bag and then swimming lessons stopped and my gym bag lived in my laundry room, never to be like heard from ever again because I don't go to the gym, but my kids started swimming lessons, and so I had grabbed that bag to put their swim stuff in and I found my mittens. I was so happy because yeah, in the meantime I had knit this headband with the rest of the yarn and I like, oh cute, it's a matching set, and then I lost the mittens. Anyways, okay. I'm just immediately feeling self-conscious about like, hey, I knit this hat, it doesn't fit. Hey, I knit this other hat, it kind of also doesn't fit. Hey, I knit this headband, it turned out kind of weird. Like, it's just real life, okay? I'm not a perfect person or a perfect knitter. This is supposed to be the Snowy Headband by Vera Valimaki. I'll show you a picture. It's just a lovely, you know, simple garter headband with a twist at the front. I was like, I don't want to knit it in garter. I'm going to knit it in stockinette. And so what does it do? It rolls in on itself like crazy because, hello, that's what stockinette stitch does. So yeah, I knit the whole thing. And then like as I'm knitting it, I was like, oh, this isn't the right thing. However, I've also been wearing this a ton because it is quite warm compared to my other headband. And turns out that these like edges that roll kind of like roll right around your ear and just like make it really secure. But it also sometimes like snags in my earrings and like, yeah, hurts when I have my glasses on. So I'm gonna reknit this is my plan because I really love the little like matching set moment. This yarn is special and Vera's pattern looks lovely. I don't know why I just didn't do it to pattern. I also did the I-cord edging weird. I don't know what was going on. This was like in my like not feeling motivated to knit phase. Just like grabbing random things out of my yarn bins and being like, I'm just gonna use that. without really paying much attention to what was going on. So sometimes that means that you have an item that is sort of functional, but maybe needs to be redone. And because the yarn is special, I'm gonna, like, special meaning that it's like from Ancient Arts that I love, and it's Alberta wool, spun at an Alberta mill, dyed by an Alberta dyer. I could get more of it, but I just want to use what I have. So anyways, another random FO. I had also been working on this shawl last time, and it is done. So this is the Sniffled shawl by Fiber Tales. And this had been, I had bought yarn for this years ago. I had also knit another one of her patterns, which is really similar, called the Elf Shawl, which is from the 52 Weeks of Shawls book, which is like why I bought that whole giant book, so I can knit that one shawl. And then I didn't like, it's a steeked shawl. It's knit in the round, and then you steek it. So you like start with this like a little tiny cast on here, and then knit it in the round, and then steek up this whole edge here. And in my other one, I did a crochet reinforcement for the steek edge, but I did it too tight, and so then when I cut it, I couldn't like stretch out the edge properly, and it was kind of bunchy. I just never wore it. It was like, it's beautiful, like navy and cream, and I'll put a picture of it. Yeah, I ended up like cutting off that edge, sewing, like zigzag stitching it with my sewing machine, and it just looks a little bit janky. So anyways, I decided, I know, I'll just like make it again, but like not the same pattern, but this one. And it turned out much better. So this is a DK weight shawl. I really like the colors from the sample, and so I tried to emulate that. It is knit mostly with Hills Vogue, a few other different bases depending on which colors I could get. But then this, I don't know, kind of gold, burnt orange kind of color is Retrosaria Brusca. And yeah, I really like it. I'm really happy with how it turned out. I realized as I was blocking it that the white color, I was supposed to be holding double because it's actually like a fingering weight yarn. And so this section is a little bit looser than it should be, but it, you know what, it's fine. I was much more careful with my steek this time. I needle felted it, and then one of the options in the pattern is to knit a facing and then sew it down, and so that's what I did. And I kind of like that other little pop of color there. It's very woolly, and I don't know if you could see, I was like picking some wool off my face after I'd put it on. It's quite woolly. It is quite warm, a little bit itchy, and so not unbearable, but like not there, you know. But I was getting good use out of this. With previously when I was saying like big shawl, long coat, -30, taking the kids to school, that's what this was good for. So I love the colors of it. Like I think it feels very, Lerica's vibe is very like, I'm like in the woods and like looking really cool. And that's what I feel like this is, even though I don't necessarily have that same vibe. But I could copy her and try and be like that too. So there's another FO. This is the Blurry Cowl also by Joji Locatelli. This was from Interpretations Volume 7, which I had bought ages ago. There's actually quite a few patterns in that one that I want to knit. This one I've now knit twice. This was my first one that I did a few years ago, which was some special yarn from Riverside Farms, they're in BC. I have a sheep fleece from them that I talked about this on the podcast before, like my lamb fleece that I have was from that farm. Anyways, that was a special project for me. And I just needed, this was also in my like, didn't feel like knitting anything, needed something that was like easy and didn't have to think too hard about, didn't have to swatch, all that. And so I made another one. The lighter blue color is Rosebud River Fiber Mill Alpaca, which is an Alberta based mill. I had used this in my blanket for Lainey that I knit last year on this time, and I had some leftovers, and so I used up the rest of that, which was nice. And then the dark blue is La Bien-Aimée Corey worsted in the color Winterfell, which is I just had bought one skein of it from the Knitting Loft on a sale. I don't know when. I didn't even have it in my, I found it in my drawer, in my bins as I was feeling aimless and looking through things. And I didn't even have it in my Ravelry stash, which is how I keep track of what I have. Like I put everything into my Ravelry stash, but I hadn't put that in. Yeah, I don't know why. That's like, I'm very offended by that. Can you tell? It's not that big of a deal, but like I feel like, oh, can't believe I didn't add it. Anyways, that felt like a good fit for this. The fingering weight I'm holding double, and then just the Corey worsted just single. I had bought this particular colorway because I was obsessed with the Winterfell color palette for the Comfort Fade cardigan. Is that what it was called? The Andrew Murray DK weight like fade cardigan. I can't think of what the like iteration of the name was, but there was a Winterfell colorway by La Bien-Aimée that I like was obsessed with, and so I just bought one skein of the Winterfell color, and I wanted to try out the Corey worsted base. Whatever. Anyways, I've got quite a bit of it left. It will turn into something else. Yeah, it was nice. It was just like, it took me a couple days. I ran out of the blue. There's supposed to be a few more stripes, but I just used up everything I had. It turned out a little bit wider than my other one. The other one's like a little bit too tight actually, but it means that I can like stick it up over my face and it stays put. This one's a little bit more drapey, and I can put it on, I guess. It's a bit more drapey and like, it's not as functional, right? To like be keeping me warm. But it's like more decorative, but yeah, I quite like it. I like the blue colors. And yeah, I think I've been feeling like I want to use up some of my stash yarn. And so that's part of what this was, right? Is like used up the rest of this blue, I think in like a good way. And then now I have partial skein of the dark blue, but that's okay. Okay, what else have I made? I finished my husband's socks that I started. I was going to make them for him for Christmas, not this past Christmas, but the year before, and I never finished them. And so I finished them this year and gave them to him. I made the DRK Everyday Socks in Custom Woolen Mills sock yarn. They are like shoved in our closet, having been worn, and so I did not bring those to show you. But that's the first pair of socks I've knit for my husband. He says he likes them, so that's cool. I've got quite a bit of yarn left over. I think I'm gonna make myself a pair as well, maybe different pattern. It took me a long time because I did not love the 2x2 ribbing. And then also I realized I had messed up the heel gusset. I don't love knitting socks, but I keep knitting them and they don't like intuitive to me. And so I had messed up the heel gusset like a year and a bit ago. And so when I started them up again, I had to like rip back a little bit, and then I fixed it and it was fine. And it was actually much more smooth sailing. Like I zoomed through the rest of them. But for whatever reason, it just like had not been computing well in my brain when I first started them. Anyways, another thing I made for my husband for Christmas was, it's called Matt's Hat by Donna Smith. And it is from this book, which is the Shetland Wool Week annual from 2024. I had bought this for a very particular vest pattern that's in here. This vest, which I just love. And I actually bought yarn for it, but I don't know if I love my colors. And so, yeah. But also there was this, just another simple, like nice colorwork toque pattern. And so this was a very kind of spontaneous cast on that ended up being way more complicated than it needed to be, because I cast on the wrong number of stitches and then had knit however many inches worth of ribbing for the double fold brim, had ripped that all out, cast it on again, did the color work in the wrong, choosing the wrong colors, knit the whole chart. When I got to the top band, that's like that same repeat again, the same, like the first strip of colors again. And I was like, oh, I did it wrong the first time. Like, that's okay, I'll just finish it. I'll just finish the whole toque and then I'll go back and like do some surgery on it. That's fine. And so picked up my stitches, separated it out, like cut it off the top of the hat, re-knit that color band, in the right colors and then grafted it back together. Turns out grafting from with one color onto 1x1 color work was like more than I had the skill for. And I did eventually figure it out where the strand of yarn was supposed to go as I was grafting, but it took a lot of trial and error. And this was also very much a like, I spent all day, like I spent hours like trying to fix this mistake that I had made on this hat. I probably could have reknit the whole thing, but I just was like, needed something to focus on. And so that's what I focused on. I knit it in mostly with Rowan felted tweed, which says is DK. I'm not convinced that it's DK. It ended up being quite large and quite airy and floppy looking. So I had spent all this time knitting and reknitting this hat, making poor choices. This is a whole like headband situation all over again here. Anyways, finished the toque, decided, I know, I'll felt it. I'll just like pop it in the wash quick and like felt it a little bit. Turns out it felt really quickly and felted like just like a little bit more than I would have wanted it to, but it turned out fine. I put it onto a balloon and like blew up the balloon as much as I could to kind of stretch the fabric a little bit and let it dry like that. Gave it to my husband for Christmas and he wears it every day, so it's fine. Yeah, it's like I probably could have done the ribbing a little bit longer for like the folded brim part, but I think I had knit that once already. I was like sick of knitting ribbing, and so I didn't want to do anymore, I guess. But otherwise it like fits him pretty good and it's warm. It's like extra warm now because it's like the 2 layers with the color work and then it's also felted. He finds it like a little bit itchy, not too bad. So, okay, random story. We had so my kids are 9 and 6, almost 7, and they both wear a toque every day. And by a toque, I mean one particular toque that I've knit for them every single day. So I had made a toque for my older son years ago, and it's just like gradually like stretched out as he's grown. And then my other son, I'd made him a Musselburgh hat this past year. There's like the bright blue one. And they wear them every day, like all day. They sleep in them like it's a thing. And yeah, it was like a conversation we had to have with the school, like at the start of the year, that's like, hey, like they're going to wear their toques like during school. Anyways, we had an event at their school yesterday. And remember it's winter again. And so my husband was wearing his toque and then my kids were wearing their toques. And the vice principal said, oh, I see where they get the toque thing from. Which I was like, it just like felt funny and awkward. I wasn't wearing a toque. I was wearing a hand knit sweater though. And I was about to be like, yeah, I knit them. I'm sure she wasn't thinking anything of it. I kind of felt a little bit like, hey. So anyways, there's our family toques. If my toques would work better, maybe I would have been wearing my toque. I had my hair in a scrunchie. I couldn't have worn a toque. Anyways. Okay. Another FO that I finished since my last podcast. Okay, no, I mean like since 2 weeks ago when I tried to film and then ruined it, is some more black and white, which is these Selbu mittens by Skein Deer Knits. And I love them. So this was, I don't know why I was feeling so inspired to make them. I just like needed them. And then I cast them on and I finished them in like 2 days. This is made in Brooklyn Tweed Arbor. And I had gotten a bunch from somebody local to me who was destashing it. She was selling it for a really good price. I just like bought like a ton. So it was like a sweater's quantity of 2 other colors. And then she had 1 skein each of the black and white. I think it's Kettle is the black and Hammock is the white. And again, I was like I have a lot of yarn. I want to use up some stash. And I don't remember why it was like Selbu mittens, but it needed to be, that's what these needed to turn into. I had looked through a few different patterns and Skein Deer Knits has quite a few. And I really like, this is just such a like classic motif, right? So I really wanted these ones. So yeah, I really like them. Because it's winter again, I've been wearing them every day. They're warm and cozy and they fit well. I have another pair of colorwork mittens that was like my first colorwork project I ever did, that I did on double pointed needles. I can't believe I did that, and that I knit both of them. I have those purple ones that I finished this year, and I have another pair of like cabled mittens that I made a couple years ago, but they're too big, and they're alpaca, and they're really like floppy feeling. These are cozy and warm. This isn't like my favorite fit of a mitten with like this elbow thumb, but I just love how they look, and so it's fine. So yeah, this was like, I used up like half a skein of each of these, a little bit more of the white. So now I have more leftover yarn to figure out what to do with it, but I really like how these turned out. So yes, there's some more black and white items and some very functional knit items that I didn't mess up. Hey, look, I do know how to knit. They turned out great. Anyways, that was one finished object. Another one was a little washcloth that I bought. My husband got me some Purl Soho linen quill, which I will show in a minute because it's a whip. And because we were ordering from the States, this was before the tariffs. It was also during the Canada Post strike, and so we paid an exorbitant amount of money to have it shipped through another service, and it ended up being really expensive yarn, which I never ordered yarn from the States anyways. I have ordered from Knit Picks one time, and I've ordered from Purl Soho one time, but it's just like, it's not worth it, like with the exchange rate and then with shipping, and then now with all the shit that's happening, it's like, it's not worth it for me. But anyways, I should have ordered a way more yarn from Purl Soho in November when I had the opportunity to. All the extra thing that I ordered was one little skein of, it's called Witch Hazel. It's like a cotton, like eyelash kind of yarn. I'll put a picture of it up. It's hard to describe what it is. I'm sure Purl Soho has a like description of it. Let me see. Witch Hazel is a burst of delicate feathery strands. 100% soft Pima cotton. Yeah, anyways. I made a little washcloth, I crocheted a little washcloth, and then had a little bit left over, so then I just like crocheted till I was done and made like a little like kind of like a makeup round kind of thing. And it's great. I wouldn't knit with it again. They have a pattern for like a circle bath mat with this yarn. I wouldn't want to knit with it, but for like, it was like an hour's worth of, well, it was crochet. It was like an hour's worth of time, if that. It wasn't even that. It was less than that to make this little washcloth. You couldn't even tell where the stitches were because of all of the little like feathery bits. But it's like made a really nice washcloth that I really like to use. So that was kind of fun. Whew. Okay. Are we ready for whips? How long have I been talking for? 40 minutes. Oh, plus what I had done before my outfit change. Okay. Why don't we start with my Purl Soho project. So I am making the half and half triangles wrap with Purl Soho linen quill. I think that it is a prerequisite if you are a person who talks about knitting on YouTube, is that you have to make one of these. I'm just like a few years late, so it's fine. I've wanted to make this for a long time. I've wanted to try linen quill for a long time, and that's what I asked for Christmas. So it looks like a weird blob right now. Let's see, this is the beginning. This is how many of my short rows I've done. I was trying to measure it last night. I think, well, I counted. I'm like about halfway through the first triangle, except the rows are getting shorter. So I've knit more than halfway, but I have half of the like short rows still to go, if that made sense. If you've knit that pattern before, that might make sense. I did not understand how this pattern worked until I started knitting it. I also watched a little video by Edible Thoughts Makes, who she has made quite a few of them, and she has a great video showing, like, she makes like a little miniature one and showing the techniques and also her modifications for them. So I'm using her modifications of a slip stitch edge and German short rows. Lots of people have done the German short rows, but I just like used Stephanie's tutorial specifically with, yes, this linen quill. So this is called Deep Petunia, and then my other color is called Purple Smoke. Here's the other one. So yeah, I am thrilled with it. This yarn has been like very lovely to knit with. This has been a very like, I was definitely intimidated by the like endless knitting of this, but it has been so relaxing, and it's been a great like, can knit without thinking about it. I kind of like a break from like, if I'm making, like I'm working on a sweater, so it's like if I don't want to do that anymore, then I can just grab this. Grabbed it, like I had some time to waste before an appointment, and so this is what I had grabbed to work on. Like, it's really easy to just pick up, put down. All things that have been said before about this pattern. Yeah, I really like it. I wasn't sure what to expect with the linen quill. I remembered then afterwards as I like was knitting with it, and like, oh yeah, they like call it linen quill. It has like 15% linen in it. It's 50% wool, 35% alpaca, 15% linen. So the linen is quite prominent. Like, you can see that's what makes the color variation in it. And then sometimes as I'm knitting, I do pull out some of the like longer pieces that are like a bit more rough and like not like plied into the yarn very well. But it's fine. This other project that I'm working on has a lot of hay in it. And so I've been picking out hay out of that yarn as I go. And then this one I can pick out. Oh, here's one. Just like, you're not gonna be able to see that. There's just like one long piece of like linen fiber that doesn't quite get integrated into the yarn. And so I've been picking out the very large ones if they're kind of sticking out funny. I don't remember what I cast on. Like, it's like 250 stitches or something. And I did a long tail cast on for the, like, on my first try, had enough yarn, and then started knitting and like did a few rows, and I was like, wow, this is going so fast. Like, I'm basically done. And I had knit like this much of it. But that's kind of like still how I have felt as I've been going, like, wow, I'm basically finished. Like, it's just like pretty much done. And I'm like most of the way through my second ball. Let's see if I can show this a little bit easier now. Okay, there. So that kind of looks like a triangle shape. This is where I'm at with my short rows. So I have that many more to do. It's gonna be so big. I haven't checked what my gauge is. I'm using a 3.25 millimeter. It calls for, oh, that's what it calls for. I probably would have normally gone down a size, but it's making a really nice fabric. That Blanket for Lainey shawl that I made last year is also square, and so you can use it as a blanket or as a shawl, like fold it in half. And so that, like, it's basically kind of like what this will end up being, right? It's like, it could be a blanket, or I can fold it into a triangle and wear it as a shawl. And I really love my Blanket for Lainey. It's so cozy and like the perfect like extra cozy layer when it's super cold here. And then also just like wearing it around the house, I can just like drape it over my back, or like, yeah, use it as a blanket on the couch. And I think that this is going to be that too. I really like the purple colors that I picked. It's going well. I've decided that if you just never stop knitting, then you don't realize how much knitting there is to do on this project. And because you don't really have to think about it that much, then you can kind of like dissociate while you're doing it. Oh, look at my Fiber Nook bag. Local yarn shop. Yeah, you can kind of like dissociate while you're doing it. You don't realize like, oh my God, this is so much knitting. And it's just been really enjoyable. I really like it. So hopefully that enjoyment continues, because there is still quite a bit to go. I think though, like when I got through the first ball, I was like, oh yeah, like that was motivating. Now I'm like almost through the second one, and then I'll just like only use a little bit of the third one, but then I'll be like, oh yeah, now I get to switch colors soon. So it's like, it's keeping my brain engaged in this like endless garter stitch. So I've been working on that. Yeah, well, I was not feeling very motivated to like start a new project. I worked a whole bunch on my Sweet Shop blanket. So this was a long-term, it will be a long-term whip still. I had tried to start knitting this, not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before, and trying to figure out how to join the, like pick up and join the next block as you go was like too much for my brain at the time. And then I put it down and then didn't pick it up again for a whole year. And so then this past November, then I picked it up again and decided I'd probably knit a few squares. I would have already decided this, that I'm just going to knit individual squares and seam them up together. And so that's what I've been doing. So I have knit, I don't know how many. I am using, the dark blue is Shepia's Metropolis in the color Philadelphia. And then all of my contrast colors are my scraps of sock yarn that I'm holding double. And why I decided that this was what I needed to do instead of trying to knit them as I go is now I can decide exactly where each color is going to go. It was kind of stressing me out to not have, because it was just like scraps, it was going to be really random. And I didn't like the idea if I'm like trying to switch from like, I'm going to start at blue and maybe I'm going to, you know, end up at green and then I'm going to end up at purple, that like as I went, like, oh shoot, now I have this, you know, other blue yarn that I'm going to try and add in later in the blanket, but now it's going to be amongst all of the purple. Like, it's not that big of a deal, but it felt like a big deal. So now I'm going to just knit all of my squares and then I can decide exactly where they're going to go and I can seam them up. Some of these blocks have like 3 or 4 different colors in them. So like you can see all of my like yarn tails of, I just had this like little nugget worth of yarn and now I used it up and it was just like so satisfying. So I have this jar over here full of scrap sock yarn, and sometimes it's just like a mini skein, sometimes it's like used it up from part of a different project and then used it up in another part of a different project, and then I just had this like little nugget left, and so now I've used it in this blanket. And this was a really good, like, don't want to think too hard, because I'm not joining them, I don't have to pay attention. I haven't knit it now in like a month or more, and so I would probably look at the pattern again now, but like, you know, I could just knit it without paying attention. And yes, it's been quite enjoyable. I'm not sure how many squares I have. One thing, I had bought the Shepia's yarn at the Fiber Nook actually, and just had bought one ball just to test out to see if I liked it for this pattern, and then went to go buy more. They didn't have it in stock, that same colorway, and then I couldn't find it anywhere. Like, nobody had that Philadelphia color. So I started being worried that, like, what if they don't make it anymore? Like, what if that colorway was discontinued for whatever reason? I bought that first one, you know, over a year ago. What if they don't make it anymore? And I was like searching every yarn store I could that carries it, and nobody had that colorway. And so when I finally did find it at this random shop in Saskatchewan that I'd never heard of before, I ordered all the rest of that I needed. And so now I'm good to go. So this will just be a like work on it as I feel like it kind of project. I do like that I can tell, I don't know what every single ball is from, but a lot of them I do. And this one is from my Eras Tour socks. So this one is just DK, I'm holding single. But a lot of them it's like, oh yeah, that's yarn from this project, or oh yeah, that one I have in those socks, or like, hey, I bought this special hand-dyed skein at, you know, this event or whatever. Like, I think that's kind of fun. I won't remember them all. There's some like I have a lot of like random pink. I don't know why. I don't know where those came from. So anyways, been plugging away at that. I have so many other things on the go now that probably won't be knit on much. But if I'm feeling, again, like I don't want to work on what I have going, then that's a good project to just like pick up and do a little bit of. Okay, another thing I've been working on also with some stash yarn, like deep stash yarn. I'm calling it my traveling Boulevardier. I'm using the Boulevardier pattern by Thea Coleman, which I knit a couple years ago, and is my favorite sweater, and I love how it fits, and I love the yarn, and I've wanted to make it again, but didn't like the idea of having like an identical sweater. I had also previously bought yarn to make the Traveler by Andrea Mowry, had swatched for that, was like, oh yeah, I don't want to make this. That has now turned into a different sweater that is sitting blocking next to me that I will talk about in a minute. But I kind of still like the idea of that vibe of the Traveler pullover. Is that what it's called? Like the Traveler hoodie and the Traveler pullover. Stitches Be Slippin', Melissa from Stitches Be Slippin' had knit it, and it just like looks so like comfy and like perfectly sweatshirty and awesome on her. And so that's why I was like, I bought this yarn to make it like with that yarn, and then changed my mind. But the other day I was like, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this yarn, which is the exact same yarn that I knit my first Boulevardier in, just in a different colorway, which is from River City Yarns here in Edmonton, which they don't have a shop anymore. This was their like store yarn. They don't have it anymore, and when they were shutting down, I bought a whole bunch of it, and so I have more than a sweater's quantity worth of this color plus a few other ones. And I'm just like using the knit and purl pattern from the Traveler and putting it onto the Boulevardier pattern. And so partly because I like how that sweater fits so much, like I'm knitting it in the exact same yarn. I don't have to gauge swatch. I know how it's going to fit me. And that felt like a good solution. I keep knitting Andrew Mary patterns. They don't fit me great. So sometimes that is because I don't swatch well, or my gauge changes as I'm going, or partway through the project I'm like, just kidding, I'm going to change something. But also I find her necklines are too high. I find her sleeves are too small. And so this felt like a good kind of like mashup of the two of them. Like take a sweater pattern that I already really like the fit of. It's very similar, I guess, in terms of like, you know, the Boulevardier also has like knit purl ridges. It's just intermixed with like some cables and some baubles and things. And it's knit flat in pieces, which I know some people hate, but I don't mind that much. And when it's just like when it's knit and purl rows, like there's not really any advantage to knitting it in the round because you still have to purl a whole bunch. Anyways, this is as far as I've gotten in my first panel. And I think I need to knit to, the pattern says 7 inches, but the last one I knit longer than that. Ooh, is it only 7? I don't remember. Let me look. 12 inches, sorry. 7 would not be enough. Maybe I'm at 7 right now. I think that's probably more likely. Knit to 12 inches, but the first one I knit to 15. So that's what I'm going to aim for again. I like laid it out over top of my other one just to check the vibe. And I think it's going to be really nice. And yeah, like I said, like that is my favorite sweater that I have ever made. I love it. And I would wear it every day, except then I feel like that's not fair to my other sweaters. So yeah. Okay, next whip is my Alchemy Pullover by Knit California. And I started this one about a month ago, and it's on the blocking mats, except that I haven't quite finished the sleeves yet. So this was, I had bought this yarn to make a different, actually to make the Traveler, and then changed my mind. And then decided, when I'd seen this pattern, I was like, oh, I kind of want a Taylor Swift inspired sweater. And then I already had red yarn and Taylor was wearing a red version. I was like, yes, yes, please. So I think that this was a good use for that sweater's quantity of yarn that I had. I am using Retrosaria Brusca in this like lovely deep red color. Taylor's is definitely more bright red. I like this. This is more my vibe anyways. So yeah, this was inspired by a sweater that Taylor Swift wore to the AFC Championships last year. For, yeah, when like the Chiefs got into the Super Bowl last year. Not this most recent year, which I don't really care about football. I don't care about NFL football. I do care about Taylor Swift. So, and I did watch at least part of this year's Super Bowl. But also then I was like obsessed with the Kendrick Lamar halftime show. And TikTok afterwards was just like prime TikTok content of everyone like obsessing about the halftime show. And I really enjoyed that. So anyways, primarily my interest in football is related to Taylor Swift. And obviously the fashion of that, because that was the key point of that sweater. It's not that she was at a football game, it's that she was wearing a nice sweater. Anyways, and the design, like the company that made her sweater is owned by, is it Gigi Hadid? I have to fact check myself now, just wait. I don't know if this random website is going to give me the details about the sweater that she is wearing. And I could scroll all the way back on Taylor Swift Styled on Instagram to find it. I did find a website that's selling a ripoff of it. This is going to take a while. A whole year's worth of Taylor Swift Styled posts. I miss watching the Eras Tour. I like tuned in for a lot of live streams, and I'm sad that I don't get to do that anymore. Oh, found it. Yes. Ah, I did. I was right. I should have trusted myself. Gigi Hadid. The company's called Guest in Residence, envisioned by creative director Gigi Hadid. This is the sweater. It is $695. Oh, it's cashmere. Interesting. Premier cashmere sourced from Inner Mongolia, manufactured in China. Reverse jersey detail around arm and shoulder with tuck stitch. That's funny. That would be reverse stockinette with slip stitch edge is how the hand knitters would say it. So, anyways, a little tangent there. Yeah, this pattern has a slip stitch detail on the back and then all down the sides. One thing that I found was so you like knit the back panel first, and the increase rate, you like increase every row, so right side and wrong side, and it makes the fabric kind of pull funny. So that's part of why I wanted to block it, because it was kind of bunchy. Like it needed a block. It needed to relax. I wanted to see how long the arms were going to be before I finished them. I'm pretty sure that I did all of the decreases that were in the pattern, but it was sitting at like here on me before I blocked it, and then it was supposed to be was not supposed to be that much ribbing. And so I wanted to give it a good block. This yarn it's not itchy. It is rustic. Portuguese. This yarn is made with fine wools of Saloia and Portuguese Merino, 2 native sheep breeds from Portugal. It's woolen spun. It's light and like makes a really nice fabric. Grown, scoured, milled, and dyed in Portugal. That's cool. It says it's worsted weight. I feel like it's more DK. Like, oh yeah, it's 250, well, it's 125 meters per 50 grams, so 250 per 100 grams. That doesn't seem like worsted weight to me. Ravelry. Anyways, this is the one that has a lot of hay in it as I'm knitting it. And I have been picking out the big pieces as I go. The other day I was getting bored of knitting the body, and so then I took a pair of tweezers and I went through the sweater and like picked out some of the other bigger pieces, because there was like quite a bit of it. It's like, I don't mind that. It reminds you where your wool comes from. But it was like, there was like a little bit more left in my sweater than I really wanted. So I picked out a bunch of it. I also found it's like, I need to wash my hands after I use it. Like it feels dusty. When I blocked it last night, I like gave it a good soak with wool wash, and then I rinsed it a couple of times, which I never do. But it was like there was a little bit of dye bleeding, and then I just felt like it needed a rinse. So yeah, I rinsed it a few times, and I've pinned it all out. And the shoulder seam on the back is definitely looking more smooth now. My sleeves are looking kind of like voluminous, which they shouldn't be. And so I'm curious how it'll feel once I put it on again. I knit like an inch or two of the body, and then I went and knit both sleeves because I needed a break. Just like wanted to do something else. Then I went back and finished the length of the body. I don't really want to have to redo the sleeves, and so I'm really hoping that they lay a little bit nicer. I picked up the right number of stitches, like my gauge is fine. I'm not sure what's going on. So we'll see. I also went back and did the neckband, so it's like if it's fine, once it's dry, it will take me like a day or two maybe to finish the sleeves, and I'll be done. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I also, that back shoulder detail where, maybe I'll talk about this next time because I'll show it, but there's kind of a gap between like where those increases are. It makes a bit of a gap between the two stitches, and I didn't like it. And so I put a like crochet chain stitch up the one side to test it out, and it worked really well. But I will show that more next time when it's done. Okay, my camera battery is about to run out. I technically have one more whip to show you, but I'm going to save it for next time. This has been plenty of knitting to talk about. I'll save that other thing for next time. I said earlier that there was crochet. That's the crochet item. But I'll talk about it next time. So I'll leave it at that for now. Thanks for being here, and I will see you again, not in 3 months from now, and hopefully sooner than that. Okay, goodbye. Happy knitting.